3 years ago, I made a bold, declarative statement. Let's see if I was right on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. Well, hi there. My name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm an associate broker, residential sales manager at ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 232. I hope you guys are having a great day. So, it's just absolutely amazing. As soon as that little white light came on, my nose started itching. I don't know. Anyway, so, all right. I'm having a day, but I'm getting through the day. I got a bolt in my front tire, and I probably got it on Tuesday, but I wound up stopping, pulling over, walking around my car, and I actually did that twice, trying to figure out why there was weird road noise. My got wasn't lagging. It wasn't drawing to any side. All the tires looked fine. My tire gauge is junk, and so I got a new one on order. And I drive home, and then yesterday when I'm coming into the office, it's like I pull out and like, okay, now there's something going on. So, of course, it's always the passenger side front tire. It's the one that you never see when you get in your car. And it was flat, so came back. I'm literally on the phone, and I pull the old tire off, and I put the donut on. And the guy's talking, was like, "What's going on over there?" I was like, "Oh, I'm changing a tire." "Oh, well, you don't have to talk to me." He's like, "No, I'm fine. I'm just, I'm a guy." All right, we know how to change your own tires, even if they're put on with an impact wrench, because some of us know the power of leverage and jumping up and down on top of the your little lug wrench to get that off. And I was supposed to get a new tire yesterday, but then they didn't get the order in to the shop, so it didn't show up on the truck, and so I had to get it done today. Meanwhile, I had a CE class this morning, which was actually entertaining. And I got people scheduled for training. I got a one-on-one coming up with an agent here in a bit, and here I am. Because fortunately, I already had this episode mentally in my head. Because Tuesday, when I was sitting there at the house, because I couldn't drive into work, I got Facebook up, and Facebook Memories said that 3 years ago, one of the things I really, really suck at is that every time I throw a video up, what I should be doing is then pushing it through all of my other social media sites. And I used to do that, but, I just get busy, I hit play, and then I walk out the door. And so I started the video, and it's episode 24, all right? And I'm watching episode 24 and, sort of critiquing myself, seeing how over the last 3 years, my presentation has changed, the office space has changed, my beard has changed, the wrinkles have changed, my enthusiasm for life has changed. Just kidding on that one. No, really kidding, not one of those like, trying to push off. I've been dealing with a lot of a lot of people talking them through various dramas in their life, so I'm getting really good. It's like, that wasn't a joke. All right. That one, though, was a joke. So, and watching the video, and it was talking about a dinner party that I suddenly remembered, where it was a bunch of people asking me, when's the crash going to happen? Is this the crash? And so it was me saying, no, there's not a crash. And if there's a crash, I'll tell you 6 months before it happened. So I watched that whole video, and then I realized what would be better than to go back in time. All right, watch what I just did and see if it came true. Watch my prophecy, what I said. All right, this is not going to happen, and whether or not I was right or not. So now, Tuesday, when I was doing this, I was taking screenshots of the video and everything like that, and thinking to myself, what I really need to be able to do is go back, pull forward these, find my old images and the old videos, cut out the part where I'm actually making the statement and then comparing. But ran out of time, but I did get the screenshot. So let's take a look at what was going on. All right. So for you old timers, you might recognize this background image. All right. This was my original setup. Okay. I really liked the silhouette, the empty glasses. I actually wanted to have charts and graphs in there, like little data points, that kind of stuff, almost matrix style. But this is what I was working at the time. And oh my God, flash of the past. Look at that. That was actually just, I just copied an original numbers graphic back when we had 4,217 listings. That was, not when people were talking about, is there a crash, coming? But that was definitely, those are crazy years, all right? When we check the numbers out, you'll find out exactly how many we have now. But trust me, it's a lot more than 4,217 listings, right? But part of that, and what I took a screenshot of, was this chart right here, okay? And this is literally my watching this. You can see, look at that young man, so full of hope. You guys can't see it on your phones, but if you're watching this on the big screen, or some of you watch this on TV, which I'm still trying to get over, all right, you'll see me in my favorite white shirt, which I can't wear anymore because I wore it out. But this is what we were talking about, okay? I want you to look at this part right here. See this little bump right here? Started right around the last part of 2000, or mid part of 2000. It's like, oh my God, what is going on? We were up here on demand. We had so much demand, and then the demand went away. It must be a crash, because I'm a reporter and I don't know anything about real estate, but my editor handed me a slip, go write something about the real estate crash. And you had to churn out 750 words about a real estate crash, right? And I was saying, I don't see one here, okay? You guys might be very, very tired of me going over this particular chart, but this chart is the one that's going to tell us when all hell's going to break loose. This is the chart that I keep an eye on, right? But at that moment, back in 2001, okay, this thing was actually from July 2001, okay, and this is 2005, so this might actually have been 4 years ago, not 3 years. All right. This is what was freaking everybody out. And I was trying to explain to the world at the time. Notice all of this. This is the normal. We were running about 100 to 110 on the Cromford Demand Index, which we had normal demand for the longest time. Right. Going all the way back in time. Okay. Look, this is before life got weird. Okay, personally, some of us think that life got weird, okay, the day we were up till 2 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out who our president was going to be, because first a candidate decided, okay, I lost Florida, and he called to concede, and then his little minion said, oh, dude, we can do this, and then they took back the concession, and next thing you know, we're up till the wee hours of the morning trying to figure out about dangling chads and stuff like that. For certain percentage of the population just had like a little PSTD flashback when I said dangling chads. All right, but we go through, where demand started going up, and then our supply went down. And this was because back then when we thought this was a huge amount of demand, 120, 130, 140, that means where we should have 100, we have 130 buyers out there. And you see supply come back down. All right. Because the houses are coming in the market at the same rate they always come in, except people are taking them off faster. All right. And we can see, actually, we got to the point where we hit, I can't remember what that low was, but it was like something like the 40s. All right. We had 40 houses where we shouldn't have been. We should have had 100. Right. And all of a sudden, this little thing just happened right here. Okay. People started pushing their house onto the market as fast as they possibly could because of various market forces and everything like that. Well, demand was still pretty high. That's okay until you hit right here, alpha. All right, alpha is a term that economists used when supply and demand are in balance with each other. 100 people looking at 100 widgets, and 100 people want to buy, each want to buy one widget. We got alpha. And then supply kept going up, right, until supply hits over there about 220, 230, right around there. Actually, I guess that would be, since that's the 50 mark, 210. So we had 210 houses for sale, where normally we would have 100 houses for sale. But at that point, demand had dropped. Notice the lowest demand happened. Everybody talks about the crash of '08. Okay, this is your crash of '08 and '06 and '07. Where demand dropped below where it was supposed to be. And even then, we bounce around for a little bit. Notice we had a little spike in demand right there, probably an interest rate surge or something. And it bounced right back up. That became our top end. And people started noticing right in November of 07, okay, and it started working. And then we hit 8, and then people start crashing. But notice what is happening at the exact same time. As that supply started coming down, and everybody's throwing houses out there, and we're short selling like crazy, and there's bank owned and this and that and the other thing, the demand is coming back up because those bank owned properties are usually being sold at a loss. And because they're being sold at a loss, more people are available to buy them. And the smart people, the brave people, went in there knowing full well they're going to try to catch a falling knife. Okay, that's term is like when you see an asset dropping, do you buy it on the way down or do you wait for it to hit the bottom and then pick it up off the floor? All right, depends on when you want to get out of it. All right, long term, you want to pick it on the way down because that way you have your best choice of assets to buy. Anyways, so then we hit alpha again, and we literally hit it at the midpoint of 08. Okay, but at that point we had a whole bunch of other things going on at this point. One of those things that we had going on is just basic. I know people who literally short sold their house because they didn't have to. They just didn't want to make the mortgage payment anymore. So they come up with all right? Hey, they got out okay. Screwed the whole rest of their neighborhood. But hey, they got theirs. All right? And they're out, off to the races. Right? So this is where we start seeing a recovery. We start seeing this recovery right around here because we have more people out there buying. These are the people out there who are buying the $40,000 3.2s in Maryvale. All right. And then we have a little correction. Demand goes down, pops back up. And then for all the way till 2013, we had this little blip right here. All right. We have a balanced market, and balanced market is that supply and demand, although lower than the 100 that it should be, was still pretty much a 1-for-1 ratio. All right. We have not seen a balanced market, okay, since 2014. We have not, on this chart. So when people were coming up to me and they're asking, I hear there's going to be another crash, is because they were seeing this whole draw off of demand. Right? What I was telling people is that our supply sucks. Right? In this video, because I watched the whole thing, I was talking about how we had 6,000 listings, and that is the most I had seen for quite some time. Right? Why? Because back in around here, we had 4,000 listings, like on this image right here, which is a great little artifact of the past, 4,217. When I'm shooting this video, we had 6,000, and I was calling it, hey, inventory is coming back up, right? Because we had not seen it start to rise. We had a little bump there, but you could tell the trend line was definitely going down, and it actually accelerated. Now, this thing right here, well, that's the vid. Okay, that was that point in time where every iBuyer, remember Open Door Offer Pad, they were trying to move into the space. Zillow was trying to move in the space. You don't need a real estate agent. You can just sell to us. That's when all of those guys realized, oh, we don't know what's going to be happening in the market, and they literally backed out of every contract they had going on. You thought your house was going to sell to Open Door and you were all ready to go, and it's like, this is great, I'm going to close on my next house with the proceeds from this, and they're going to give me an extra 2 weeks in, and then all of a sudden they come up and they say, no, we're not buying your house. And you need to sell that house to qualify for your loan on the next one, and a sort of snowball from there. That's those guys. That's what they did to you, to my market, my industry. And they're back, right? But it was really, really sharp. But what also happened, here's our normal demand. We'd been running this nice little bit more demand than normal for our population because we're Phoenix, Arizona. People are moving here, right? Then we had a little drawback right here, and that was an interest rate thing to draw out everybody back from that little mini recession we had back in 2018 that nobody really talked about, right? And boom, the vid happens, and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of people realize that their house is too small when they're both working from home, and maybe they don't want to live in the city anymore. It could turn into a charnel house. All right, so That was that sudden surge that we saw in 2020, 2021. And I think what a lot of people were interpreting is that sudden jump. They were perceiving that sudden jump in demand as, oh, that's what happened before '08. That's not that much of a jump. We had just sort of hit the same number. Okay. And we had also been looking at supply, and then supply was just tricking up and demand had just dropped down, which we see everywhere else in the chart. And of course, the news picked up on it. And next thing you know, I'm having people ask me this question at dinner parties. So I made a declaration. We're not going to have a crash. Did we have a crash? You guys all know the answer. Because if we had, I would not be recording this as a topic of my conversation, because that's how you make sure you're a prophet. You say lots of prophecies and cherry pick out the ones where you're right on. Right? This is what we looked at. This is June 1st, 2025. They don't have the July numbers out yet. Let's go back in time. Remember that little dip that I was talking about? Look what happened the next week. All right, demand went back up. Somebody needed a news article right there, and I just happened to have to respond to people. All right, there's your supply coming up. There's demand dropping down. Oh my God, is it a crash? Oh wait, demand popped back up. And then supply went down. What happens here? Still not a crash. That was your interest rate. Remember that glorious time when the interest rates went to hell, and when all of a sudden, instead of our 2s, we started having 4s and 5s and 6s, and now we have 7s? All right, that's what that is. I can point at this chart and tell you exactly what was going on and what was happening at the time and why this number does this thing. Let's look where we're at. We actually have, for the first time in forever, all right, a little bit right there, but we have a real serious, I wouldn't want to call it a glut, but we definitely have more supply than we have demand. What's keeping the demand this suppressed right now? Two things. Actually, really one thing that's made up of two different things, all right? Home affordability, right? It is very, very expensive right now, all right, to own a house because of the purchase price of the house, which shot up in 2020, 2010 when this was going on, all right, and the interest rates, which caused this. In fact, I could almost, if I was a mathematician, I could probably sit there and sort of calculate out, and this is the kind of stuff that quaints do when they're trying to judge stocks and stuff like that. But I could almost say that this is pretty trad. We almost see a little bit there. All right. Notice that's where supply index started going up. Same thing, housing went up a lot. Okay, that is the price of houses. People think we're going to have a correction on the price of housing. People think we're going to have a correction on the price of housing because the houses are so expensive. That is only one of the things that can do that. The other one is going to be interest rates. Interest rates come back down. People are going to be able to afford the houses, even at these elevated rates, what is perceived as an elevated rate. Because remember, I got a chart around here somewhere that literally shows you it's not so much your house went up in price, is that the dollar lost value. And the dollar lost value because they like to make the money machine go brrr, because, oh my God, we can't cut anything in the federal government. All right. And we can't cut our spending, so let's just make more money. AOC literally was promoting that. And if you want a really good example of what happens to your country when you do that, go watch Elvita. Okay, the history of it, not the actual Madonna and what's his face. Okay, Argentina got destroyed because people decided it was a good idea. Well, just print more money. Doesn't work, boys and girls. All right, history books are filled with the bad examples of what happens when that happens. And if you were taking some stupid DEI class instead of paying attention in history, you think it still sounds like a good idea because you are not a history nerd. And for some reason, we do not elect history nerds, right, to Congress. So anyways, so this is where we're at right now. I want you to just take a look. Okay, our supply is more than our demand. Our demand is depressed right now because of two things. Price per, house prices, which because of the run up, all right, after the vid happened, okay, and these interest rates being high. One of those two things need to break, all right? My money's on interest rates. Or the third option, we stay here for some time until inflation draws down the value of the dollar, okay, because actually, or the value of the dollar decreases, it will be reflected in inflation, okay, until we're literally sitting there, it's like, yeah, $500,000 for a house? That's not bad. Because my rents are now whatever because of inflation, and all of a sudden that sounds affordable. That's the least preferred way to do it, and that is the most likely way it's going to happen, right? It'd be nice if we had a sound dollar. It'd be nice if we had a dollar that had the same purchasing power of back in 1970, okay, but we don't, okay? And as long as we keep spending money, all right, as long as every time we try to cut any kind of the funds, Murkowski comes up out of nowhere and suddenly starts screaming about the poor little starving children's or whatever it is. Or every time something comes up, it's like, hey, we'll just cut taxes, right? Or we can just keep the taxes the way they are and cut spending. Let's piss both sides off. Because remember, Dawson's postulate of politics, if both sides hate it, it's probably the right thing to do. So, end of editorial and end of the rant. All right. So, like I said, once again, if there's a crash coming, I will let you know when the crash is going to come. Is this going to be a crash? Nope. We're nowhere close to correction. This is a correction. This, all right, is a slow market. Okay. Because we have been bouncing around at this level of demand for quite some time. All right. This level of demand, okay, back when we had this level of supply, is not a problem. We hit alpha again, right? Then supply backs off. Because remember, okay, this is the first time we actually have had normal supply for us, okay, even we're close, to all the way back to 2011. And most of that supply was short sales in bank-owned properties, right? These are the numbers we should have. These are the numbers where we should be. We need to work on the demand side. We're going to work on the demand side, interest rates, okay, building new houses cheaper, and people understanding that you can actually live in Maricopa. All right, or Buckeye. Let's talk about Maricopa and Buckeye. Ray, why do you keep pushing people out to Maricopa and Buckeye? Well, because this is our market right now on July 16, 2025. Actives this week, 24,676, just for the record. Wait, I'm not even going to say that anymore. Took a CE class today, and that number kept saying 25,171, and then 170. He was doing the MLS live, so I'm watching the numbers go up and just dying on the inside. Actives are 24,676. We're down 243. All right. New listings, 1,942, up 364. So more people are putting houses on the market. But contracts went up 2,075, went up 340. There's your demand ticking up, all right? Closings are 1,492. Ray, why am I seeing actives go down when the new listings are coming on and the contracts are sitting there? Because remember, active listings fall out. Okay, it's one of the things I don't track on this thing, all right? People decide they're not going to sell their house, and they decide to keep it. All right. Coming soon to an MLS New Year's, 462 new listings, which is actually low, but we're going into the doldrums. Remember, this number down here, the small ones, is just the delta change from last week. All right. Let's look at the Cromford report numbers. A little bit more accurate. Supply is 105.1. That's it. 105 where we should have 100. Demand, though. Okay, demand is at 76.1. Still not ticking up as much. Gives us a Cromford report number of 72.4, which is actually higher than it was last week. All right. So this is where we're at. Need more buyers. That's why I keep telling my agents, more buyers. You don't want a listing right now. You want buyers. Buyers that listen to you. Buyers that hang on your every word. All right, and then let's break it down. Paradise Valley. Everybody wants to know what's going on in Paradise Valley. Why is it 33% growth towards the seller side? Why is there so much demand in Paradise Valley? Because the stock market is doing very well. People in Paradise Valley buy houses based on their portfolio, and if their portfolio is doing good, they decide to buy a bigger house. All right. Then we have Chandler, Fountain Hills. All right. And you know what? I take it back. Paradise Valley is the only seller's market out there. We've broken down. Okay. Chandler, Fountain Hills, Glendale, Avondale, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Cave Creek, Mesa. Those are all your balanced markets. Remember, 100 people looking for 100 houses. All right. Now we start getting into the buyer side of the house. Gilbert, Tempe, Goodyear, Peoria, Surprise, Queen Creek, Maricopa, and Buckeye. Biggest loser right there is Avondale, dropping 14%. Wow. So they went from sellers to balanced in the course of a month. So we got a lot of seasonality going on. All right. But Queen Creek, Maricopa, and Buckeye. If you were looking for the deals, I would definitely be looking at those areas. And I would not have a problem buying a house on there if I was planning on being there for more than 5 years. All right. And if you can live in Maricopa and Buckeye and live your best life, okay, those houses are under 400,000. Those houses are under 400,000, and with the proper lender and the proper working the system, you can have an interest rate that starts in the sixes, right? And do I actually have that? I had so much training and whatnot going on this week. I can't even tell you where all my paperwork is, but no, guess I don't have it. Used to have a chart around here that I was using, sent by one of the lenders, going what's cost more, buy or rent. Okay. He played around a little bit with the numbers. I don't think rents are going up that high because rents aren't going up, but his chart said if rents go up as normal over the last 20 years, same thing. Okay. You gotta listen, all right, to what is said by these people. In the last 20 years, rents have gone up X amount per year. If that holds true, then, and you might be renting for less this year, but in 3 years, you'll be paying more and your mortgage will stay the same. Meanwhile, you have 3 years of equity on that. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But longtime listeners of this show know from a couple of weeks ago that rents per square foot have not gone up in the last 3 years. So that calculated spike that lender is doing over the last 20 years, all right, is forgetting that we've balanced out for the last 3. But if you go back far enough, you can say bad things. I saw this on CNN last night, and the other night, they were arguing about eggs. And one person says the price of eggs year over year are more expensive. Eggs this year are more expensive than they were last year, this same time. Okay. The administration has not done anything to bring down the price of eggs. The person who is supporting the administration is that the price of eggs have dropped since he took office. Who's right? They're both right. It just depends on how you want to spin it. This particular lender is saying, hey, you buy a house, okay, in 3 years you'll be paying less on your mortgage than you will on rent, and you'll have the appreciation. And that's the one reason why I'm not really using that particular chart. It's because there's a fallacy in there. Okay. Because he went back far enough to get the cherry pick his data to be able to make his chart work. Right. As it is right now, rents have not gone up for the last 3 years. Right. Price per square foot. Yeah, you'd be saying, but my landlord keeps raising my rent. Yeah, because he can. And you sign it because moving sucks. Just saying. All right. So what does that mean to you? If you are looking for a house, all right, and you're looking for a deal, and you can afford these current interest rates, you get a house down in Maricopa and Buckeye. When the interest rates change, and I really don't think they can stay at in the 7s and 6s forever. Sooner or later, we're going to have that little dip down. And if you refinance right there, that's when all those buyers suddenly start swarming back into the market. And we see them do that because they always do. And then boom, oh my God, all these buyers, and demand starts going up, and then house prices go through the roof. And since you own a house, the house that you have is suddenly worth a lot more. If you wait for that moment to own a house, you are going to be standing in line like everybody else who suddenly decided to wait to the last second. Smart people make money on people who are not educated in economics. I'm trying to educate you people. All right? And I don't think I'm foolish for thinking you guys are smart. All right? You disappoint me, but no, I think you guys are all individually brilliant. You just need to realize what is and what isn't. And, I'm not saying listen to me all the time, but it might help. Or go watch more CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever your poison of choice is. I guess there's 2 news networks out there that don't have cable, so I don't watch any of these sites, right? So I sit at home, watching YouTube videos and children and pets around water, right? I make sure I don't drive in anything flooded because I'm always watching for standing and moving water on roads, right? I also work in my circles. That's a big thing. In fact, my phone just flashed from somebody in my circle I need to call back. So I'm going to end this recording. Have a great day. I hope you guys have one too, and I'll talk to you guys all later.